The exploit wars are in full force once again. Foxhole is no stranger to building exploits. As we've seen in the past, players always tend to stretch the building meta. For a while, players were using foundations to build entire castles around bunkers to protect themselves from artillery. Some will say that this is just part of the game considering it's a sandbox, and some players will tend to disagree and think of it more as an exploit. I tend to lean on the side that these are exploits, but I want it to be known right now that I don't fault players that play this way. It's part of the game until the devs decide it's not. The current building exploit has players building silo fuel containers as their main line of defense to stop tanks from moving forward. This all started when a player found out that these fuel silos were actually cheaper and more effective than making regular tank traps. This is what a frontline is supposed to look like when attempting to slow the enemy down. You have the intended tank traps, trenches, fences, and dragon teeth that are supposed to be used to stop the enemy from moving forward. But because these fuel silos can be spammed on the battlefield at a more effective rate, this is the new meta that we have now. These fuel silos can be placed right next to one another, or you can spread them out as well to take up more space and make it harder for those tanks to push forward. Like many exploits in the game, when I first heard about it, I honestly thought it was really funny. A forest full of fuel silos that players had to navigate through. I even thought it would be really cool if a player made a giant maze and other players had to find their way out. But when I went to the front line and saw them for myself, I ended up hating them immediately. They honestly ruined the game experience for me. Of course, for some players, it's not about the game experience. It's all about winning. And if you can spend less time and resources to win, why not do that? The normal tank traps have about 2,000 health. They can be wrenched and they cost 3 metal beams. Fuel silos have 900 base health and 1800 husk health, which in total gives it 2700 health, which is 700 more than the tank trap. It can't be wrenched and it only costs 15 construction materials. You can easily make these construction materials on the front line as long as you have a salvage field close by. Fuel silos can also be repaired with basic materials where the tank traps can't be repaired and will disappear after 24 hours. You might ask yourself, what about dragon's teeth? Dragon's teeth require a lot of concrete to make. It's still faster and cheaper to make the fuel silos even though the dragon's teeth are technically more resilient. Based on these numbers alone, we can all see where the problem lies. Why would players want to spend the time and effort to build an actual defensive line that can sometimes take a day or two to get operational when they can drop 100 fuel silos in an hour and get the same effect? Now, the fuel silo defense does not completely stop the enemy from advancing, but it does slow them down significantly. We are on day 29 of War 115, and if the devs don't do anything about this fuel silo meta, I can easily see this war going into 50 days. What can we do to stop this from occurring? What are some of the solutions we can think of that would prevent this but also not harm the logistics players in the backline? As much as I would like the devs to hotfix this, I don't believe that they will. The devs don't often hotfix things within Foxhole unless they are really game-breaking. A solution the devs could use for the next war to stop this from happening could be to make it so that the fuel silos take extra damage from artillery shells or tank shots. Basically have it so that the fuel silos completely disappear when hit once by either of these weapons. If you want to take it a step further, they could even have them be completely destroyed when being hit by mammoth grenades or basic infantry weapons. Basically, they should be extremely fragile to any kind of assault weapon caused by enemy players. I have no idea why the devs elected to give these fuel silos husk. With the recent update, all facility buildings now turn into husk after being destroyed, and unfortunately, fuel silos is one of those buildings. I think once they are destroyed, they should be completely destroyed. They should not leave behind a husk that is still in the way. I personally think the easiest solution to all of this would be to remove the husk altogether, which would put the fuel silos health at 900 instead of 2700. Or we could make the fuel silos like bonfires, which would allow vehicles to be able to run them over and do damage to them. I only like this solution slightly because we all know sometimes backline logistics players aren't always paying attention when driving. I think bad solutions would be increasing the cost of the fuel silos. We don't want logistics to suffer even more because of poor game design. I also don't think it would be wise to make the fuel silos take up more surface area when building. Again, we don't want to cause more stress for logistics. And finally, we don't want to limit the amount of fuel silos that you can build in one given area. Again, mainly hurting the Logi backline for those that use these for their intended purpose. Let me know in the comments what kind of solutions you would like to see.
Industrialism is destroying the continent. Just look at this shit.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
I agree. I hate it too. I think it's awful.
I think we should tear it down and we should build a garden.
I agree.
Big garden.
I agree with you.
Oh, dude, when we first heard about it, I was like, haha, classic. Because, I mean, why not? If they're cheaper than tank traps, people are going to use them. If they change it, oh well. If they get rid of it, they're just going to come up with another thing that's just, people are going to do that then. I mean, these are just replacing the tank traps that were just made with metal beams. Either way, people are going to do what they feel is necessary. These are only made with C-mats. What do you think, Matu?
Love it. Perfect answer.
I fucking hate it as a tanker. We could have a pretty good like last night, we had a pretty good tank line, but we couldn't fit them all because of all the silo. They should make it as pipe. It takes pipes to make it. It takes pipes to make, pipe connected to the silo. So it should cost pipes as well.
I don't like it.
I think
almost as much as I don't like collies.
the trees are beautiful. Unfortunately, these trees have been harmed in the most egregious way.
You're for
by
the fuel
environment.
silo husk?
Yes.
And I'm against it.
Okay, that's fair. Do you want to go into any more detail?
I
got
just
collies
think
to kill.
they're pretty. I think they look cool.
Fair enough. I appreciate
There
your time.
there weren't enough trees on the map before, honestly. This will make building a lot more fun when there's more trees to build around.
That's fair. Players have always wanted to cut down trees, so this is like the same thing, right?
Yeah, now you can cut them down.
Yeah, okay. Everyone wins, it sounds like. Thank you.
Yep.
I even tried to do some interviews on the colonial side since I'm playing Warden this war. No! I have a question! No, don't kill me!
What's the question? Alright, here, surrender.
I surrender! Let me find the button!
Surrender.
That's not the button.
That's not the button.
Is it 9?
That's not the button. Yeah. Alright. I need to put your guns away.
Alright, I'll drop them
Very slow. Alright. Alright,
There you
now.
go. They're right there.
What's your business here?
Sit still.
What is your business here?
I'm doing some research.
What sort of research?
You guys got any of those fuel silo defense things going on over here?
Maybe.
Okay, I just need to see them, and then that's it.
Alright. Okay, sounds good. What do you think, Quest?
He has a warden.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm making a video. No! As you can see, that didn't go over very well. As I stated at the start of this video, I lean toward this being an exploit. I know Foxhole players will argue until the end of time what is an exploit and what is allowed in this sandbox game. For me, the thing that I hate the most is that it ruins my immersion. This is probably the lowest concern when it comes to this kind of issue, which I'm aware of, but I go to the front lines in Foxhole to feel like I'm in an actual battle. I don't like seeing things like this on the front because it takes me out of that immersion that I get when I'm fighting on the front. With this new building meta, I feel like Foxhole is turning into a bit of a poop show, and honestly, it's getting a little ridiculous with how many fuel silos we're seeing on the front. They almost span the entire hex from one mountain to the next. It's almost impossible for partisans to sneak behind enemy lines when you have these things blocking your path, or having one AI structure defending the only hole in the fuel silo wall. I've also noticed a bit more lag on the fronts that have these fuel silo forests. Remember that only just recently the devs took away the maintenance supply modifiers per region. I believe that if this type of building continues and the devs can't figure out a better solution to combat it, we will see those maintenance supply modifiers return, and no one wants that. All in all, I would always rather lose a war than participate in building anything like this. But again, I'm not going to yell at the players that are using this quote-unquote meta tactic to stop either. At the end of the day, this is up to the devs to decide on how they want to handle this. They can either make an announcement to tell players to stop building it until it's fixed, or we can wait until the next war to see if the devs make any changes to make sure that this does not occur again. For now, we will just have to accept that it's part of the game. I don't feel like there's any use in pointing fingers about which faction is doing it more, and I don't feel like there's any point in trying to blame an individual person for starting this either. We as a community should continue to have discussions about the main issue and how we should fix it. Plenty of players in the game don't use or contribute to these kind of exploits, and some players even tell other players that are exploiting that it's wrong and that they should stop. I hope that you are the type of player that rejects this gameplay style and that you choose to take the higher ground. I would like more communication from the devs, which I'm sure other players would agree with, even if it's just a statement about what is currently going on in the game. If they aren't going to take any action, that's fine, but at least say something about it. I've seen them push out hotfixes pretty fast when it comes to Navy ships, so why can't we get hotfixes for things like this? As always, make sure to check the date of this video. You may be watching this in the future and this problem may no longer be an issue. Always make sure to double check before assuming that this is still a problem within the game. Let me know in the comments what you think about the current state of Foxhole with this new meta. Am I overreacting, or are these exploits getting to be a bit too much? Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. Make sure to subscribe for more Foxhole content. Make sure to leave some breadcrumbs behind you before venturing into the fuel silo forest. Cheers.